Yippee-Ki-Yay, mother.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Welcome to another edition of Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast Classic. I'm Ralph Quartucci.
I'm Sean Paul Murphy.
I'm Deborah Murphy.
I'm John Quattrucci.
And I'm Chris Coker.
And I'm Drew Kwatrotsky.
Oh, nice. I like that. That's the old way we used to say our name, not anymore.
The classic Russian version.
The classic Russian.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, how's everybody doing?
Oh, we're great. I'm
Good.
so happy. I'm feeling great. I wasn't at the Oscars.
Well, look, I know we're going to have to get into what everybody's talking about. So let's just get to it. Donald Trump got a hole-in-one this week.
Wow.
With a
That
five
was
iron that
amazing.
magnificently flew to the green.
It's
It was
amazing.
Are you
huge.
kidding me?
Okay,
Huge.
so I think
No,
that's
it was
what I want to
huge.
talk about. I don't know what anybody else saw this week, but that's what I want to talk about. So did anybody see that hole-in-one? Anybody?
I did.
All right.
He was playing with Ernie Els.
Now, let's talk about the slap heard around
I'm just
the world.
glad he's good at something. It's nice for him.
I mean,
that's
this
good.
Oscars will be talked about forever, just
Yeah.
like the streak.
Not for the
and all
right
that. I mean,
reasons.
okay.
Poor
Who wants
Coda.
to start? This was crazy, but anybody want to jump in and talk about what happened?
Well, should I explain what happened for those people that don't remember?
Okay, you can
If
explain. I
if
think
you don't know,
everybody's
then
seen it, but
turn
go
off
ahead.
this podcast. You don't deserve to watch it if you don't know what happened.
What happened?
Well, apparently, this young fella, Christopher Rock, made a joke about Will Smith's wife, her bald head, which is as a result of a disease in her chin. Though 2 days earlier, she said she doesn't give two craps about what people think about her hair. She loves it.
Right. And she assumes everybody's seen that everybody
Everybody
knows
knows
that
she
about her.
has that.
That's
Oh,
disease.
yeah, of course.
Because
I mean,
she's so
I
famous.
knew it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway,
I sent
but go
her
ahead.
a get well soon card.
Yeah.
That's how much I knew. But Chris Rock made a reference to the movie G.I. Jane, where Demi Moore had her hair shaved. A joke which it seemed that Will Smith thought was initially hilarious,
A pretty benign joke.
a pretty benign joke. And also, what's wrong with looking like Demi Moore? I would
And by the
love
way,
to
Jada
look like
Pinkett
Demi
Smith looks
Moore,
fantastic.
She does
in
look
that period.
I
with my
venture
hair,
to
at
say
least.
that Will Smith has other things going on.
Well, I think there's something deeper going on than that joke.
Well, that's
So he
that's
went
my
up
point.
in front of a worldwide audience and literally slapped him. And I'm sure everyone on this podcast now thought initially that it was part of a gag.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Until he
Sounds
sat
like
down.
It should be.
Yeah, but it wasn't. And it just shows you how poorly done the Oscars were, that they bleeped the sound once he started yelling. And you could kind of tell what he was yelling, at least one of the words. But the fact that they didn't cut the commercial really made the Oscars very special.
Well,
But I
luckily,
want to comment.
Yeah.
Hey, one thing I do want to say, there's something about being in Hollywood that gives you this. They talk about toxic masculinity. It's toxic entitlement.
Mm,
That's why we have
That's
people
for
like
sure.
Harvey Weinstein,
right.
Kevin Spacey.
William
Because
Hurt.
They think because they star in a movie or they make movies, they can do whatever they want. The only difference between them and Will Smith is he felt so entitled he could go up there and do that on a worldwide broadcast.
And yet everybody still gave him a standing ovation, and everybody.
That
still was
is
behind him.
why there is toxic.
I
Well,
understand.
they gave Roman
It's-
Polanski a standing O also. So that's
Yeah,
And then-
but he didn't
typical
rape
of
a girl
Hollywood.
right in front of him.
And the
Well, that's
true
true.
hero, I think, is Chris Rock. Although it was a joke, it wasn't that funny, but he was hired to be funny. And why are they always hitting the comedians? Why is the comedians held at a level of, to withstand that?
Again, I
snap?
think this has everything to do with what Will Smith. She's been emasculating that guy for years. Okay?
well, they're in an open marriage.
yeah. So
They talk about that a lot.
Well, at least half of it's open. If you read some
Well,
of his comments, it seems
yeah.
like she's in an open marriage.
right.
He accepts it.
well, the rumor was she was fooling around with a friend of her son's. Okay, so you talk about that. So there's a lot going on with what and the fact is, if he had walked up and said, "Look, what you're doing isn't cool. Just stop," we would have been fine. If he waited till his Oscar speech to say, "Hey, what Chris Rock did was kind of unfair. She's going through a tough time," we all would have been fine. But to
Yeah.
go up and do what he did, And I'll say this, his form was amazing. That slap, I mean, I know he trained to be Ali. It really showed. I mean, he planted his feet, and that slap came from. But Chris Rock, to his credit, man,
He was
Oh,
great.
he's
He
the
kept
one
the
who
show
really-
on the
you
rail.
could see he was ready to say something. He was ready to launch into something.
He was
and
going to
decided
say
not to.
that was his biggest hit in the last 5 years. That's what he was going to say.
Maybe.
John, that was a good one.
I thought he was going to go
Thank you.
after his wife
Thank
a
you,
little
Debbie.
more, but he decided professionally not to. Unlike
Well, it
Will
was totally
Smith.
awkward. I mean, you saw him take a beat. He didn't know exactly which way to go with
Oh,
that.
he was. I've been
And then
slapped like
came
that.
back.
That is
And the
that
audience
is-
was stunned too.
that open hand slap is.
I mean,
That
who
was-
slaps people? Who slaps people?
Well, I got hit by a dude,
Scientologists.
same way.
One level of
Oh, yeah.
training is slapping and being slapped.
That
was a
open
pretty
hand
good-
slap that slaps you across the ear like that is it just rocks you because you don't
Well,
know.
plus
where
he's
it came
got 40
from.
pounds on Chris Rock.
And like I said, you see the way his feet were planted. That was a perfect.
And
fit.
isn't
So-
it true that Chris Rock had a terrible accident with his face?
Oh, that I
is
don't
this-
know.
No, you're thinking the other guy.
Oh, I thought this was going to be a joke. Debbie's always dropping one. In
Oh,
the
no, you're
middle.
talking about
No, I
Tracy
was joking
Morgan?
about-
You're
No,
thinking
it-
about the other guy from Saturday Night Live who,
Tracy
Okay.
Morgan.
yeah, Tracy.
No, it's not. No, he's just. I remember Chris getting into some kind of altercation with his chin. And
Well, you know, he also did a documentary on black women and their hair.
Right.
Good movie.
And how important their hair
Mhm.
is, and
Yeah.
how, well, you know, how that affects everything. And the fact that and Will Smith was definitely on another something.
Well,
was
he
on.
also made a crack about Jada Pinkett. She boycotted the
Yeah.
2016 Oscars because of Me Too, and he made a joke about like anyone cares, you're not invited anyway. So that stems from back
Yeah,
then
but it's
too.
still
But
a joke. It's a joke.
whatever,
Those guys
it shouldn't
been
have
in the
happened. Especially that's a Super Bowl for Hollywood, and frankly, the ratings are in the tank. It was the second least watched Oscars. I think it had 15 million people, and all anyone's talking. And I feel bad for Coda. Now I haven't seen Coda. But Power of the Dog was the favorite to win the thing.
Yeah,
and the
I
fact
know.
that Coda won and everyone's talking about not Will Smith even winning the Oscar, they're talking about the punch. And it
Oh,
takes
the
away
poor- the
from
poor
everything else
bastard.
that
It's
happened.
a slap.
Yeah.
It's the
But,
slap.
well, is this okay? But that
Open
that
hand.
slap was pretty damn close to a punch when you heard
Yeah.
it.
Well, and
his
I feel
reaction
bad
to
for
it.
the documentary that came right after. that
Oh, yeah,
had-
Questlove
Oh,
stuff.
Questlove. And that
Yeah,
I want to
Questlove.
see
So,
that
it's-
documentary.
Which, by the way, I've actually seen Summer of Soul. It is fantastic.
Really?
yeah,
yeah.
it's supposed to be
Yeah,
great.
it has this great not to get off on a different subject,
Well,
but it
let's
has
do
this
it.
great opening scene with Stevie Wonder playing the drums, and it's just so great because you forget that Stevie Wonder is, a true, like, you don't put the word musical genius on a lot of people,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he was, especially at that time. And you forget, we know him for singing mostly and playing the piano, but to just see him just rocking out on these drums, you're just like, oh yeah, that's right. He plays like 20 instruments. I forgot about that.
Little Stevie Wonder could play anything.
Yeah, but
Harmonica.
but totally Summer of Soul,
Yeah.
totally worth it. I saw it when it came
So
out.
So
it
let's
was
get
deserved.
into
It
that.
was well-deserved
I was a little
win.
disappointed.
I didn't see any of the others, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was a terrific
I was
documentary.
disappointed Power of the Dog didn't do as well. Dune picked up a lot of awards.
Well, it picked up a lot of technical awards,
A lot of
right?
tech-
some
technical
seen, some unseen. Like a lot of technical awards nobody
Yeah.
saw.
And
Including
and that
editing.
Dead movie that we talked about on
Yeah.
queued up one, the fan favorite. Now, who
Yeah, well, that's the other. Okay,
they have to
that's
start
Now,
to get
that
that
is
one?
total BS.
that's
Yeah, well-
a bigger slap in the face than what Chris Rock did. Is those stupid fan awards for that stuff, and then he got two of them, right?
Army of the Dead. What a joke!
It's unbelievable. They're not going to do that next year. There's no.
And
way.
the
They
Justice
can't do
League
that again.
scene won the best scene out of the movie. The
Zack
Speed Force
Snyder's.
scene. In the remake,
Zack
yeah.
Snyder's job.
So Zack Snyder cleaned up at the awards.
So, all
I
right.
guess
everybody
he's
wants-
like talking to his
Zack
friends.
Snyder.
I kind of won an Oscar. I think I won something.
What
I
do you
don't
think
know
they're
what.
going to do? Do you think he's not going to present next year? They have to do something for Will Smith.
I don't think they'll do anything. I don't think they'll do anything.
They got to do.
No,
something.
they have to do something.
Well, what are they going to
Good,
do?
do something.
The
He
fact
won't
that
present-
they didn't
he
kick
won't
him out.
present-
The fact they didn't kick him
Right.
out after it happened.
They
should have done
couldn't-
that.
They were in shock.
That would've
Everybody
sent
was
the
in
message.
shock.
Well, did you
Everybody
hear
was-
why they couldn't do it?
Why?
Because the people on the board were all scattered at different places throughout the hall, and they couldn't get their act together in time.
Because that acceptance speech was like every abuser you ever hear.
Well, I
That's
know.
what they sounded
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
tears
What he
and
did.
the whole thing.
You know,
Yeah.
love makes you do crazy.
That's
things.
right. There was a reason why I did it, and it's not right. And I'll say one other thing. If this is what he's like with 15 million people watching a live
15 million.
broadcast.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's, what's happening behind the scenes?
yeah. Well,
I tell you what, he seemed like he was either high, drunk, or having a mental issue at the time.
Well, he was having a ball after the Oscars. He was
Yeah.
dancing the night away. So he certainly wasn't, feeling
well,
guilty
he,
about
he said a couple things about how God has put a lot on his shoulders and he's got to protect everybody. There's something going on there that, we can't begin.
Well, I like
the,
Leah
first, the first
Thompson.
apology, he didn't apologize to Chris Rock.
Of course not.
He
He
apologized
did
to everybody
today.
else.
He did today.
Yeah, he
But
did.
there was a
Because
but
the
in it.
Academy's investigating it now. And he doesn't want his Oscar pulled from him.
Right.
And also, it's sort of like what I did was wrong, completely wrong. But
Yeah.
when you
right.
come after my family,
Well, after Me Too, the Academy put a morals clause, a conduct clause in their bylaws. So what happens?
Yeah.
It's doing something like that. I got a question. If that was a female up there and they got slapped, what would have happened?
It would never happen. I don't think that would ever happen.
outrage.
Well, let me ask you a question, Ralph. Did you ever think at the Academy Awards someone would walk up and belt
I understand
somebody?
that, but I just don't think that.
So,
I just
so
can't imagine.
there can't be a double standard.
I know. I
Why
got
would
it.
they be
I
different
understand.
punishments?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like if it had been, I mean, if Amy Schumer had delivered that joke,
Kathy Griffin, I could see getting slapped in the face.
Yeah.
but like if Amy
Yeah.
Schumer had delivered that joke, because she was there making jokes.
I don't
and
think he
making
would have
fun.
done anything.
Of course, he wouldn't have done anything.
That's
He's
not the
not
question.
going to slap a woman.
Right.
That would be.
That's kind of sexist, Chris.
He would have been hauled
I think
out,
They're all equal.
and he would
Everybody's
not have
equal.
accepted his award. You know that.
My,
All right,
my
And if
it's
you're a
not-
opinion-
stand-up comedian,
Listen,
if you're
all
a
right.
stand-up comedian,
It's
I
not
would've
that
liked-
complicated. There's nothing wrong with his reaction to a joke that was dumb. He could have stood up and screamed and cursed and did all the things that
Absolutely.
he was feeling.
Absolutely.
Don't put your hands on people.
Exactly.
There's only
Right.
one.
100%.
There's
exactly.
only one
You got
exception.
that right.
Only one exception to putting your hands on someone when someone else hasn't started. Because people are like, "Oh, he's defending his wife." Chris Rock didn't punch Jada Pinkett. It's not
That's
the
right.
situation
Right.
is. And Jada Pinkett would be entitled to punch back as well. The only people you can hit first are Nazis. That's the only one.
Yeah.
Still,
In fact,
even
I
to
think
this
you
day.
might have a moral obligation.
Well, that's
to
true.
do
I mean,
that.
she has agency too. If she has a problem,
Right.
she can solve her own problem. You don't need a man. And this is the whole thing about her man stepped up. Cut the shit. Okay, you
yeah,
shouldn't have
There
done
that's
is-
that.
not
there is
even
one-
her man. There's like some other guys.
There is one silver lining, which is I think a whole generation now will discover G.I. Jane, and what a wonderful
Maybe.
special film.
That'll get a second life.
Oh my
huh?
goodness.
That may be true.
I actually saw that movie, and I remember so she was bald. I remember Viggo Mortensen beat her up a lot, so
Yeah.
that's an interesting parallel.
She was going for
And-
the Navy SEALs.
well, that's the other part, is that she was trying to be the first woman in
Right.
the Navy SEALs. So GI is Army. So the movie really should have been Swabby Jane, I guess. I don't know, but
Navy
it's
Jane.
a terrible, boring movie that had bald Demi Moore, and now it's like part of
Oh, and
Oscar history.
Aliens
Well,
3,
it was-
Sigourney.
Let's
was
look
involved,
at
too.
somebody else who had must have had some memories. Marley Maitland. She was like sitting a couple tables
It's
away.
so funny you said that.
And
'cause
when
we
she
did-
won the Oscar, William Hurt beat the crap out of her that night.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Mm.
Unseen, Harvey Weinstein, this is right out in the open, and they still didn't do anything. So I'm starting to agree that Hollywood's full of nothing but elite assholes who just have no clue what it's like in the rest of the world. And shame on them.
And by the way, if
Shame
that
on
was
them.
Joe Blow doing it and not someone of
come on. You
A-lister
never would have
Will
made it
Smith.
up there. Joe Blow wouldn't have made it up there.
Yeah,
And
there's
they
been
knew
a
he
lot
was
of
gonna
Joe
win the
Blows to win the
Oscar.
Academy Award, Ralph, and you never hear from him again.
They knew
I'm
he was
saying
going to win it.
You're Will Smith, and you're one of the upper echelon in Hollywood. And for everything you've ever heard about him, other than this open marriage thing, he seems like a good guy. Doesn't get a lot of bad press. Now this thing happened.
Well, he's
You
a
don't think-
Scientologist with their PR behind him. So I mean, it is.
Exactly.
Well, here's also I
Manicured
loved Leah
image.
Thompson, the actress. I forgot I'm not quoting her exactly, but it was sort of like, I love it when people bring God. Actually, I hate it when people bring God into it after they do something terrible.
Right.
You're a Scientologist. I guess you're back to level 4.
Well, and yeah, Denzel over there telling them the devil comes at you when you're at your biggest power. It's like everybody was consoling Will Smith. Meanwhile, the other guy, Chris
I
Rock,
was
gets
out for
slapped.
Chris Rock.
Well, you should have seen how many people were asking, is Will Smith going to sue Chris Rock?
Oh, please.
Okay. So
So, all right, let's get to this
Anyway.
very happy, fun
I want to
movie
thank
that
the
we watched.
Academy.
Yeah. Someone slap
I
him,
won this.
please.
They didn't film
Get-
it.
get-
I was one of the ones they cut out, but I just
Yeah.
want to thank them. I want to thank my producer and director, Ralph. my parents for procreating, because without them, this would never have happened.
Okay.
And by the way, we're all winners tonight. I just want you guys to know that.
Where's
We're all
Rose? Rose, get in there and slap him.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
so I
That
spun
is
the wheel
really
last week, and I've brought 1993's The Vanishing
the feel-good movie of the summer.
with Jeff Bridges and Kiefer Sutherland. That's what we're going to talk about. What?
Yeah, that's full of crap. You won't know.
I'm just
That one,
kidding.
at least I could get into a little bit.
No, I brought The Vanishing, starring a couple of Dutch people and maybe some French people.
Let's
I don't
not
really,
mispronounce their names, Ralph. We
I
have trouble
can't
with
even.
English
I'll
names,
try
all
to.
right?
The director's name, because I
Unless
want to
Drew.
talk about him a lot because of what he did, which is
Yeah.
direct the sequel, the remake as well. George Sluizer. I can't.
No,
Drew, come on.
his name is pronounced Sluizer. I got
George
you.
Sluizer.
I got
Thank you,
George
George
Sluizer.
Sluizer. And an interesting little tidbit.
Sluizer, like Sluizer Minnelli.
Sluizer Minnelli.
And
This-
it was so sad seeing Liza Minnelli in that wheelchair too.
Oh, yeah.
that was
Bad,
sad.
huh?
they always do
Good
that.
to see her. Bad to see
Wasn't
her.
sad. I mean, Gaga had her back. It was kind of sweet, actually.
Yeah.
This movie was based on a book written by Tim Krabbe, Drew, Krabbe, with
Sure.
an accent over it.
Dutch
A novel called The
Dutch
Golden
does
Egg.
what it wants. It's
Now, the
fine.
only interesting thing about this is he's the brother of the bad doctor in The Fugitive. You know that bad doctor?
Jerome
yeah.
Crabbe, yeah.
That guy who is
He's a great
you know,
actor.
he's
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
always a bad Dutch guy.
He's
That's-
also in an early Paul Verhoeven movie called The Fourth Man, which is one of the craziest, nuttiest movies I've ever
Oh,
seen.
really?
Is it a
about
sequel to The
witchcraft
Third
and-
Man?
No, it's
Or
not.
completely
It's
unrelated?
it's a totally new franchise.
Oh.
Because in
Wow.
Dutch it's probably called like
Schwarzenegger.
Anyway, that's interesting. So, to this movie,
Sporlos.
this Sporos, which is the
Sporos.
the golden egg. This is a very depressing, very upsetting film. That's fantastic. Anybody who
hold
hasn't
on,
seen
that's not what the title means though. The title means traceless or without a trace.
that's what the
That's what
Swedish
the
title
book
means?
was called, The
Dutch
Golden
title?
Egg, but the idea, I think The Vanishing is a more evocative title, so that was a good translation.
Well, he was a Kubrick fan,
Right.
so he wanted to sound like The Shining. That's why he called it The Vanishing.
Well, and
Yeah.
Kubrick
And the-
called
And
him,
the killing.
told him this is the scariest film he's ever seen.
yeah.
Je m'appelle Raymond Lamonde. Je suis sociopathe et claustrophobe. Je n'ai jamais trompé ma femme. Bien vite, tire-bouchon, s'il te plaît, dans le tiroir. Mais je m'empresse de vous dire que pour moi, le pire, ce n'est pas tuer. Parce que mine de rien, c'est devenu une passion. Tu as quelque chose dans la tête.
Vous êtes un menteur. Menteur? Non, je ne vais. Non. Oui? Et je veux.
Vous l'avez violée, Saskia. Si elle est morte, je vais mourir moi aussi.
All right, so the plot of the story is a couple is driving through the countryside. They seem to have a bit of tension. That you can tell they've been together a while because the way they're treating each other and kind of. And as they're driving through, she's telling us a story about her nightmare she had, where she's floating inside an egg and maybe
Egg,
another
yeah.
egg, and she's trapped inside the egg. And
Holy
as she's-
foreshadowing.
Yes, as she's telling this story, they
Batman.
get stuck in a tunnel. And this is really where you're seeing her claustrophobia kind of kick in because he decides, because they ran out of gas, so he decides to go back and get gas, leaves her in the tunnel alone. She flips out, leaves the tunnel. He comes back, has to come out of the tunnel and find her. So we've already established, her psychological kind of makeup.
And he's kind of a
right?
dick.
And he's a bit of a dick.
I don't know how to say that in Dutch, but he is.
Yeah, he's a,
You're
There's
saying
some
it Dutch like as if
there.
you were a Nazi, but a Nazi light.
So they stop at a rest stop, in the middle of the day, and she disappears. And the rest of the movie is a combination of two things. We're cross-cutting between him trying to find her, try to figure out what happened, his obsessiveness about how she got lost and where she was, and he's trying to find her, and he's putting up notes, and he's putting her picture up. But at the same time, we're watching the story of we actually know who the killer, the kidnapper is, or the serial killer is, from the very beginning. This is set up right from the beginning, and we see this person's arc. He's training himself in how he's going to kidnap people, and
how long the chloroform takes to knock you out.
Right, how long he's going to.
His inept attempts to get women.
Very innocuous looking guy, by the way.
Yeah, he looks like he's a teacher or something.
He's
a family man. He's got 2 or 3 kids, and through these flashbacks, you realize a couple of things. He tested free will when he was 16. He jumps off a balcony that was 3 stories up. There's a scene where he's with his family, and they find a little girl is swimming in a channel, girl. And she may be drowning, she may be not, but he jumps in anyway. And after this, his daughter says, "Well, you're such a hero, Dad. It's amazing." And so in his mind, he's going, "Well, I'm really not a hero." And he even says to her, "Well, most heroes have bad things. There are other things that are going on." And now his quest is to prove, I don't know what he's trying to prove to himself that I'm really not a hero. And he decides the worst thing he could do. Actually, he says in the movie, killing's not the worst thing. It's the other stuff around the killing that becomes the worst.
It's Leopold and Loeb. That's what it is.
Okay. So you're seeing these two things happening. This obsessive boyfriend whose relationships are getting destroyed because he's so obsessed with his old girlfriend who disappeared. And you're actually seeing the killer training and they set up the point where he bumps into her at the rest stop. And we all know, we know the spoilers in this film. The spoiler is that eventually the serial killer and the boyfriend get together, and the serial killer gives the guy a deal. He says, "If you drink this coffee, I'll tell you everything you want to know that happened to your girlfriend.
I'll show you.
And, it's this long process of he's just trying to decide. And this guy's super obsessive. And he finally decides to do it. Well, turns out he showed him exactly what he did, which was buried this poor girl in a coffin.
Alive.
And that's the end of this version of the film, which is.
Well, no, then they scroll up.
John, will you let me finish? John.
Oh, sorry.
John, let me finish.
Sorry, Ralph.
Thank you. So Max, I think that's his name, Max, is buried alive. And the last thing you see is
Rex.
Do you mean Rex?
Rex. John has thrown me off. See, if I could slap him right now, I would, but that's awful. Violence is not the answer.
You can't slap him in front of our 20 viewers.
No, of course not.
If you want to slap someone, we'll bring on a Nazi and you'll
Rex
do your
is
duty.
in the coffin, and he realizes how his girlfriend died. He screams her name. He realizes he's dead. And then we see above, and we're at a family picnic or something, and we realize that these coffins are all right below this guy's house, and his wife is building, putting plants and doing all kinds of stuff. So it's a film about obsession. It's a film about free will. It's a film about hero worship, and it's just devastating. It's devastating. That scene at the end is just a kicker. So, do you guys see it? Did you like it?
Is this the first time anyone saw it?
For the first time, yeah. Chris, you've seen it?
I saw it in college, and I didn't remember anything about it at all.
Really?
I saw the remake more like 20 years ago, and remembered that it was
directed
awful.
by the same guy.
Yeah, that's a terrible movie in so many ways. And so it's a great film. It's worth your time, but it's not as uplifting and fun as, say, a G.I. Jane or something.
To be. No, this is not uplifting and fun at all. But it's
well,
amazing.
I'll tell you,
that made me laugh so hard. I'm laughing still. Drew, that was really funny.
Thank you. It's no Tenet, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, it almost was a Tenet.
So I saw the film when it first came out. It played the art houses. It played at the Charles Theater in Baltimore, and I was absolutely stunned. And it is literally, in my opinion, the darkest, most frightening film I've ever seen. It's just the guy is really evil, but you understand, it's perfectly understandable. And I tried to get people to see it, but people weren't,
Why do you say understandable?
Because he's an evil guy. And so this is something that would appeal to him, to do this to the boyfriend. And the boyfriend's very understandable too. You know, he knows that nothing he does is going to bring the girl back. He realizes she's dead, but he must know. So he makes he does the same thing the killer does. You know, no rational person. The killer, a little more detail. The killer, the boyfriend keeps going to the south of France every year, puts up signs, gets on the news, and the killer is quite fascinated with him, even discussing him
He likes
with his friends and family.
His persistence. His persistence
really, the killer is really appreciative of it. He understands it because he was obsessed too. He was obsessed to do the killing. And so he wants to reach out, but there's always like, well, you were with someone or there were police watching. But so he's been sending him messages saying, meet me here, meet me there. And at the last time he meets him within it where his home is. He can see him from his balcony while he's waiting at a cafe. And he eventually goes to where the guy lives in Denmark, not Denmark, Netherlands, and says, hey, I'm the guy. And he gives him a deal. He says, I will show you what happened to her if you come with me. And at first the guy like beats him up, and the guy understood that. He goes, you have a right to kill me. You know, I understand you have a right to kill me. And he accepts that, but he's betting that this guy is so obsessed as he was when he was seeking someone to kill, that this guy is going to take this trip. And, you know, they have a conversation, they have small talk and all. But eventually he comes down to it. When they get down to the south of France, he goes, you have to drink this coffee. Well, what's in it? It's a sleeping pill. It'll put you to sleep.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, you know, he doesn't want to do it. He goes, if you drink this, you will find out exactly what happened to her.
Yeah. And Rex said, I'm probably going to die. Rex knew, but he was so obsessed, he still needed to know.
Yeah, he still needed to know. So, and you know, to me, the biggest hurdle that this film has to go through is believing that Rex would actually drink that.
Right.
Even though he's going to die. He knows.
Well, no, when you see this, when I first saw this, I didn't think the end was going to be the way it ended. I kind of had hope that, yes, this guy's going to explain how he did it. And Rex is going to ultimately, because, you know, like every American, we got to have a, you know, happy ending. So I assumed that he was going to find out. And essentially that's what they did they didn't do it that way, but the remake, which is just terrible, they played with that. But for me, the most devastating part, yes, the end was devastating, but it's when they replay how he actually meets the woman who gets caught.
That is so sad.
You're right. And it was after a failed attempt at another woman. He was ready to give up. And then she approached him to look for, he had the tiles, or he had it was a key ring.
It was a key ring with an R
that had
on
the
it.
letter R on it. And she wanted to get that for her boyfriend. And that's how he gets her back to the car. And it was actually her that, if she had just not done that, she never would have been caught in the first place. That was devastating.
Yeah.
And then you add that Rex is now trapped in the thing. And to me, it's the bleakest. It is like when you see a movie like Hostel or these terrible torture porn movies, it's like, okay, they're gross but this is everybody has that fear of being buried alive, right? Everybody has that fear. You have a fear of being caught in the middle of a tunnel with no lights everybody has that kind of fear. And this tapped right into that right from the beginning of the film. It starts and in the American version, it's early Sandra Bullock too, right? So she's super cute, and you know, you don't want to see anything bad happen to her. And again, she approaches him to get after the infinity thing. Devastating. But to have it end the way it ended with Rex screaming, "My name is Rex!" Oh my God.
Rex Hoffman.
Yeah. So, but John,
and
you
then
had never
his
seen
family play, you know, like living their lives.
Well, right
over
above.
top of these
Well, that
people.
whole scene where they scream.
Yeah.
He has the whole family scream at the table, and he's asking his neighbor, "Did you hear that stuff that was going on yesterday?" "No, I didn't hear anything." He's like setting everything up. Very, very precise. Right down to, like you said, chloroforming himself to see how long you stay out.
With a stopwatch.
Right, 18 minutes. That's about 20 miles. I can get this far. So, John, you hadn't seen it though, huh?
No.
So you must have loved this one. This must have been.
You know, in the world today, there's a lot of awful things going on.
Oh my God.
And what I like to do is I like to watch movies that just add on to that feeling
Yeah,
that
nihilism.
I'm
yeah,
having
that
in
nothing
the world
good.
today. This is not a movie that I want to say this the right way. To me, the best scene in the movie was when he couldn't find her at the gas station.
It's very
and
tense,
he's in
yeah.
panic mode. That
Yeah.
scene to me was amazing.
If you've ever lost, you haven't. If you ever lost a kid in the store,
I've lost Michael, and
Oh,
it's
right.
the
So
worst
right,
feeling.
right.
I lost my nephew,
Yeah.
And it's the worst feeling in the world. Your heart just drops. But watching him, and that's not my own kid, so I can't even imagine when it's your kid. But his panic mode when he's trying to find her and he sees someone that looks like her, that to me was like the most powerful scene in the movie for me. I didn't like this movie because it's depressing. Okay. I didn't like the ending. I hate when the bad guy wins out, and not in every movie, because I love Silence of the Lambs and I loved Anthony Hopkins in that, and he gets away with it at the end. I hated that ending. Now, having said that, I hated what the remake did. If they're going to remake it, stick with
we'll
that
talk about
ending,
that. We'll talk about that separate.
not
We'll
the new
compare and
one.
contrast. But yeah,
this movie is bleak and depressing. I did like the structure
Awesome,
of it with the flashbacks. It's not a movie for me. You guys know my taste in movies. I would not seek this movie out. I have no interest in movies like this. It's not why I watch movies. There are things about it that I like, but overall, this movie made me depressed when it was over.
well, the nice thing about this podcast is we share movies that you may not
I
have ever
agree.
seen. So and
That's
it's good
why
that you
Citizen
watched
Kane's
it.
going to be
Citizen
one of the
Kane
next ones.
is not
we
a
pick.
happy movie. That ends kind of sad. doesn't it?
But it's the most brilliant movie ever made.
But it's a sad, depressing movie because he dies
No,
with
it's not.
nothing. Okay.
It's not a sad, depressing
Yes,
movie.
it is. Chris.
Not like this, Ralph.
Chris,
please.
give me your thoughts.
And
on
one
it.
other
kind
thing.
of sad and
One other thing.
depressing.
Self-preservation takes over. Okay. This guy's not going to drink the coffee because no matter what he thinks happened, if he drinks the coffee, he's going to die.
That shows
Okay?
his obsessiveness.
He knows
John.
that.
No.
I think I
That is
bought
not-
that he drank the coffee.
That is not a surprise, because he said explicitly earlier in the movie, I have to make a choice that she's alive somewhere and I let her go, or I find out what happened to her and she dies. And this movie takes that to the natural end of it, which is he will do whatever he can. And he doesn't get told by the murderer that you're going to know what happened to her. He said, you're going to experience what happened to her. And he knows, he's not stupid. He knows that means he's going to die. But there's so much stuff going on in this movie to talk about. But one of the many things this movie has to say, which I think is worth thinking about, is maybe closure is overrated, because at the end of the movie, he got all of the answers and he was dead.
Right.
And he learned that she was dead days after he lost her. There was never anything he could do about it. And then he found her. He found out what happened to her and suffered the same fate. And of course, the whole movie is set up, like you said, it foreshadows all of that. They're literally, two of them are wearing gold, isolated in a dark tunnel in a dark space. At the end of the movie, when you see the family of the murderer hanging out, the newspaper has their pictures literally in the shape of eggs.
Right.
And they're missing. I mean, like it's interesting because there are no surprises in the movie except, is it really going to go there?
Right.
And of course it really goes there, because like you said, when you were describing the movie, there's not really a mystery.
Right.
Like, hey, who did this? What's happening? No, you for the first time you meet the guy, he's putting a fake cast on his arm. You're like, well, that guy's not up to any good. Even if you didn't know the movie was about a kidnapping or the vanishing or something like that, you'd say, well, that guy doesn't have good intentions. But I think the movie is, and I think this is why Roger Ebert liked it so much. It's so good at what it does, and that deserves a kind of respect. And that may not be to everybody's taste, but that movie is, it's like there's an inevitability to it that feels very realistic, because you are either a person that you can relate to him directly and would say, I would want to know, because you imagine like that moment when you lose your nephew, you lose your kid, you lose somebody. What if that was forever? Like, what if that was forever? It's impossible to imagine living with that for some people. Some people do, but I mean, most people don't get the opportunity to be told. You will find out, you will know, and then you'll be dead. So I don't think there's any mystery as to why he did that. But you're not sure watching a movie, are they going to go there? And of course, the American movie doesn't go there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of the many weird decisions they made.
Rex, he ruined the relationship with the one girlfriend he had 3 years later. He could never forget the first girlfriend. He's having dreams, screaming.
Yeah, he was sorry about that, and she understood. But she's like, I can't be in a menage a trois with a dead person.
And I think his personality, he's on TV all the time, and he's he was always searching. So yeah, this is as much about him as it is about her.
Sure.
And yeah, you're right. He just had to see what happened. And he knew he was going to die. He knew it.
Well, look,
But
there's
we-
also
we didn't-
a classic cinema angle, which is the movie basically switches main characters in the middle of the movie,
Yeah.
just like Psycho does.
Yeah.
And that was pretty crazy, revolutionary to be sitting in a movie theater and then Janet Leigh's dead and Anthony Perkins is like he's the guy now, and you actually want him to make that car disappear and all that kind of stuff. So
I was thinking about that while I was watching.
Yeah,
it.
I think this is a successful attempt without saying I'm going to remake Psycho with Vince Vaughn, except he's jerking off. You're going to say we're going to make an experience in the theater that is like that is shocking. It's not shocking in that moment like the shower scene is, but you did not know, even when you knew the movie was going to go there, you didn't really know, are they going to go there? And
No,
he went
you didn't
there.
know. I didn't know what to
That's
expect.
very powerful storytelling.
That was what's amazing. After he
But
drank
he
the
swore
coffee-
never to abandon her. He
Yeah.
swore that to her.
Well,
He swore I'll never leave her again, and he sure
That's
did.
right. All right, Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. This movie is one of those. So the guy who plays the killer, obviously, top marks for being one of the creepiest dudes ever, right? But yet not being so obviously creepy. He doesn't have a bunch of ticks. He's not
He
sweaty.
fits in everywhere. He's
He-
unrecognizable.
yeah,
he's
he's a little
invisible.
off.
He's invisible.
Yeah, and that's what makes him so scary. He's just
Right.
that guy at the coffee machine that you might ask for change from, right? But what I saw this movie a long time ago on video or whatever, and I will say the second time around, it's like you're kind of waiting for the inevitable because you know how it ends, and you're just kind of waiting for the ending. However, I will say this: it was nice to see it in a really kind of clean format, and but I just to really get into his. Because I remember specifically when you're watching it the first time, especially once they meet in the third act, right? You're like, how's it going to go? It's basically, it becomes binary, it's either goes A or it goes B, I mean, and so you're wondering the whole time. So this time it was nice to watch it this time around. While there wasn't nearly as much suspense, obviously, you can really I really enjoyed, and I should know his name, but the guy who plays the killer, his performance was so creepy. And so because it was so subdued, I really, really enjoyed it. And the way that he talked to his daughters, it was so bizarre and so but yet not that unusual. It just, I don't know. He wins marks for just being 4 degrees off kilter. Do you know what I mean? And that was great.
It was creepy in his normalcy.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. He was invisible.
I think that's a really important part of the whole movie, and there's a reason I have Nazis on the mind, because you guys talked about the movie Conspiracy.
Yeah.
And this man would have been right at home at that table at the Wannsee conference talking about stuff. I mean, this is Hannah Arendt's Banality of Evil as a fictional story. And it is shocking and normal. And that's why there are people who can laugh at themselves as they accidentally chloroform themselves when they're trying to grab that lady, and then go home and really enjoy having a nice birthday celebration with their daughters. And the people who ran concentration camps lived there with their families. That's the thing. These are just people. I mean, Hannah Arendt wrote that book while covering the trial of Adolf Eichmann, which I think you also talked about that too in that movie Operation Finale and other stuff. And that's the thing. Adolf Eichmann was just this guy. He was very smart and everything. He was just a guy.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Middleman.
Well, this was a guy who was working on a much smaller scale, fortunately for us, but that's why it's so real. Because the killer isn't generally somebody who knows everything about food and art and is very sophisticated and charismatic. He's just a guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I thought his beard was creepy, but
he was going to continue doing what he was doing.
Now, the thing is, Chris, you're right.
His thing.
After seeing this a couple of times, now I'm more interested in the car ride he takes with the serial killer. And kind of the conversation where the serial killer is explaining to him how he came up with all this stuff. And actually, Rex is kind of bored by the conversation, right? He just wants to I just want to get to, what happened. And he even offers him sandwiches, pulls sandwiches out of the glove compartment. Not that
that was creepy too.
Yeah, not that you ever want to eat anything that this guy's going to pull out, but so yeah, there was a lot of interesting little things. And the tunnel scene became a lot more important to me too.
Yeah.
And her, I mean, you just, because what's going to happen to her. What's going to happen to Rex when you're watching this film. But it's like, okay, he did that to himself. He put himself in that position.
Why are you victim blaming? He's in a trap
because he
that
chose
the
to drink that
set.
coffee. How freaked out she was about being in the tunnel. So now your brain's going, what was it like for her when she woke up in that coffin? and the horror she went through. And then it just changes everything from that moment on. Now you're like, oh, that poor woman, right up until.
And she was so delightful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to add I'm chomping at.
No, I was right. Debbie, you were next because
Chomp
I can
away.
tell you're chomping.
I can't wait. Okay. So this movie, I saw it with Sean, and the first time we saw it, he says, come on, let's watch this movie, The Vanishing. Right. So I said, okay. After I watched it, it was so disturbing. I think it was about a month I was very disturbed by this movie. As we all are. Nobody wants to get in a coffin before our time. Nobody wants to be buried.
No, buried alive seems like a bad
before
thing.
we do what we have to do.
Right.
Especially that way without having a breath. So when the assignment came, when you picked this one, I said, oh my God, I'll just count myself out. But I didn't watch it because I don't want to go through that same kind of month of actually feeling that. I actually feel that breath going out of the people. But what I think this disturbs me most about, because I really had to think about what is it that, it's just really causing a month of disturbance.
Stress, right.
And to actually have it come again, to discuss it again and to inspect it. What I think it's about is knowing something and then not knowing it.
Right.
Some people, you just have to, everybody has got to know stuff. It's called in philosophy, epistemology, to study how you know things. How do you know stuff? Is it something that you learn, or is it something in your brain that you suddenly figure it out? Or is it something you're taught? What is it that we don't know? What is it that we don't know in life? And this movie shines a light on that very aspect of what we're here for. What are we here doing here? We're having an Academy Award and this person hits somebody and then he gets applauded. He gets an award. What the hell? What does it mean? What is all this stuff? What is life? So deeply thinking, as we do as humans, this movie, it just shows you how knowing is so important to know, and to know what's becoming of your end.
Wait a minute. Knowing is what you know.
No, I'm saying it's important. It's important
Desire
to know.
Desire to know what's at your end. What are you coming to the end of?
And what price will you
when
pay?
It's over, when you're caught in a coffin and you're out of breath. That is like, wow, in your face. And normally we don't think of death that much, but man, this movie really makes you think about it. And I love to think about death because I know, I know that I'm going to, live. It's not, this life is not it for me. And I think it's important to come to that edge in our lives where we can have a faith and a belief, because I don't see how anybody else could go on with life if you don't believe that this is it. This can't be. With all the mindful, all the thoughts that we could think and all the goodness, and it's got to be eternal. It cannot be.
That's why you live every day like it's your last, and you're going to get buried in a coffin.
Exactly.
And he went through.
The difference is that guy knew it was his last.
But if we get back to knowing what he finds, like if you see that last scene, he goes through all kinds of stages in that scene, right?
He goes through all the stages of death.
Right. He panics.
And he even laughed at one point.
He accepts, right? Even when he's clicking the lighter, you see the little egg inside the lighter, the orange glow of the lighter. So he went through a bunch of stages in that one. So yeah, I guess he had to know. I think we all want to know how we're going to die, but we don't want to know either, right? It's like, I want to know. I really don't want to know when. I'd like to know, but again, I don't know.
Well, when our purpose is done, that's when we're done. When you lived your life to the point where you've done what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but I don't want someone to decide that for me. I guess that's.
Well, he didn't decide that for him.
Well, the other guy decided it for the young girl. The serial killer decided it for her. So, he was making decisions. He also, you could see when he was practicing, he was going to pick up that hitchhiker till the boyfriend popped out from behind the trees and he took off. I mean,
I love that English guy or whatever's like, what are you doing with my wife? Like when he couldn't hook, he's like, I need help.
But you could see he was learning. And then he looks in the daughter does in this nice book about, your life. And he sees his arm in a cast at 16 and he has the Ted Bundy idea. Hey, I'll put a cast on, make myself look weaker. People are going to help me more. Boom, I get someone in the car. And you wonder how many people he actually... like
debating whether to go in the car at the end. And then she sees the picture of him with his family.
Right. No, see, you're confused. Did she do that? Was that in the Dutch film as well? Because that's
in
definitely...
both. That's in both.
Okay.
It's in
the American, they literally panned across the whole thing to show four pictures.
It is. They cut to him with his wife and kids. And she's like, I don't know if I should get in the car. Oh, he's a nice family guy.
Right.
Yeah.
See, the other thing about this, we were talking about, like, it's an ordinary thing. I don't know if you guys know, there's a whole other angle to what's happening on the day that she disappears. You can listen to the movie, watch the movie and listen to the soundtrack. And there's exactly what day it's happening on. And it's happening on July 16th, 1984, which was stage 17 of the Tour de France. And you're not just hearing the Tour de France is happening. You're hearing this incredible dramatic moment in sports history, in French history, because of course they love cycling, in international sports history. And it's like all these things are happening. You hear them talking about Hinault, who is the Badger. I love all the cycling stuff, so forgive me for geeking out a little. Hinault is the Badger. He was like the big French leader, and Laurent Fignon is fighting him for the lead, and he's the upstart. And they're fighting on the first mountain stage of the tour, the Alpe d'Huez, which is one of the legendary, greatest of all times climbs. And they're dueling. And Fignon, the young guy, he's going to defeat Hinault, and he's going to end up in the yellow jersey at the end of the day, which they say, the cashier says, oh, Fignon is in the yellow jersey, because by that point, the stage was over. There's also a guy named Greg LeMond, who's on his way to being the first American ever on the podium of the tour. He was in third place, and that was a big day for him. The first Colombian rider ever to win a stage in the Tour de France, Herrera, won the stage that day. Like, it's all this incredibly important major stuff that was a big part of the culture of everyone French around them. But if you think about it, this is about what happens when your ordinary day isn't ordinary. And if you think about losing your nephew right to that moment where you lost track of him, it was just a day. You were just at a store, and then suddenly that was gone. And that can happen to anybody. That's what the movie is saying. Like the characters that we were following, they weren't listening to the tour in the radio. It was playing everywhere. They heard it everywhere. This was something that was happening and important to everyone, but they were just together and they had a fight, and then they made up, and it's going to be okay. And then she was gone. And to see yourself against the scale of things like that, it's really, I mean, that ties into, I think, what you were talking about, Debbie. It's just the darkness that's out there, and the fact that we're so small, and that we're small in the face of everything, whether it's death or darkness or evil, or, the titans of sport, like literally writing a legend just in the audio of the movie you're watching. Yeah. It's really the way that it sets all those scales against each other is really, it's just so intense. And I had totally forgotten that was a big part of the scene where she disappears. Yeah.
But we also hear about people disappearing all the time and never think about the people around them. How that disappearance is going to affect them. And this is an example of showing us directly how it's affecting this one guy, and how he wants everybody to remember who she was. He remembers her. I don't want people to forget who she was. I think it's a powerful film. Yeah, it's depressing as hell, but still, it's good art, and it makes it makes me think a lot.
What did the praying mantis mean at the end? Why was such a loving shot
near the beginning too?
There's a praying mantis at the beginning too.
That was a stick bug in the beginning, I thought. Was that a praying mantis?
You're right. It was a stick bug.
Well, at the end, it was a praying mantis.
Right, because at the beginning, it's a stick bug, which looks like a stick, and you don't know that you're in danger if it's hunting you, which is what the killer was.
Or they needed to fill some revealed.
Could have been just he's revealed to be
that you needed to pray. That you need to pray against the evils in this world. We got to know that we're being, watched over.
Interesting take.
I'm going to go with Drew's take, which is it's a predator. That's a predator bug.
Well, I think it's both. I mean, the praying mantis is called that because it looks like it's praying when it pushes its front legs together.
Right.
It also reminded me of The Descent. in the sense that there was a really amazing original version ending and then a really stupid American ending.
Yeah,
It was
let's
just
talk about
same
the
movie.
American real quick. We don't have to get because it is so stupid and it's just clunky. But the thing is, it's directed by the same person, which
Crazy,
is
That's
right?
what
unusual
makes
when
it
they do this.
extremely disappointing.
Right, and he
I thought
signed,
at least that'll be true if he's doing it.
right, but he signed off on it too.
But that had to be
Well,
a studio decision.
right.
That was not his decision.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but
The
it
first
just-
movie
had
was
to
$2
be.
million. This one was $23 million
Right.
of the studio's money. So when they said give it a happy ending,
Right.
yeah, because
Give it a
American
happy ending.
audience won't be able to handle the bleak ending. Is what
Right.
They want
he
the
was
bad
told.
guy to get
Now the
his
way this one,
comeuppance.
the way it's same, it's all the same beats. Not as well done, I must say. It's Kiefer Sutherland plays Rex. His name
Nancy
Rex in this
Travis.
film. I don't remember. Nancy Travis plays his girlfriend,
Yeah.
who doesn't leave like the other one did, but becomes a big integral part.
yeah, she's the Lineca character.
Well, she ends up
the second
killing
woman.
Jeff Bridges, right?
Well, she ends up
The shovel in the
same
mouth.
thing. Kiefer takes the drink. No, Kiefer actually kills him.
Oh, was
Yeah,
I thought
Kiefer-
it was her.
Kiefer she beats him so that he's knocked down, and then Kiefer takes the shovel and
So the shovel
And
into his mouth.
But
beats him to
Kiefer
death.
gets buried.
Yeah, buried
Yes, he
alive,
does.
just like Rex, except she
Yeah.
saves the day. She follows So that's where the American version kind of split off. But again,
Like a
Jeff
Disney
Bridges.
version, kind of.
kind
What's
of.
that?
Like a Disney version,
Sure,
kind of.
sure.
Yeah.
But again, we've been talking so much about how creepy the first guy in the first movie was. He didn't play it creepy. He just
No.
was creepy.
Which
Jeff
is what
Bridges
made it creepy.
played it with ticks and all kinds of weirdness.
Well, that accent.
that whole thing.
I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, come on, man. I mean, Jeff Bridges is great, and it just didn't work. And
And he had a
it was
funky haircut, too.
so clunky, and you go in excited because it's directed by the same guy. This is going to be amazing, and then that thing gets turted out. And you talk about Ebert loving the first one. You should have heard him with this. He just ripped
he
that
did
one
not.
to shreds.
He did not
I
care
just
for
want
it.
to say one thing about
And
the
it's
first
not streaming
film.
anywhere. I wanted to watch it to compare it, but it's
The
not up
trailer's enough.
Yeah.
The trailer's enough.
Well, this first film, I got caught up in it. When I saw this film, it definitely made my top 10 of the year. I forgot exactly where, but it was a film I didn't feel I ever needed to see again.
That is true.
But then later, when we were married, I thought Debbie would enjoy it.
Thanks, John.
But I was so caught up in it the first time that the filmmaking eluded me, which is good. It's good that nothing called attention to itself.
Right.
But I will say it's more than just an ending, this movie. It is a really good piece of filmmaking. The way they intercut the stuff, the way they hint at something and then they show it. Just little things like when you see the daughter and the father watching the TV broadcast and she goes, "Oh, that's you," pointing out her father. But we don't get to see it. They cut to the image after it's back on the thing, but then we see that thing later. It's just a really good piece of filmmaking.
That was a problem I guess he had when he was first presenting the film, that the flashbacks were difficult for people to kind of figure out because he was flashing forward, present day, train.
Yeah.
But again, I thought it was pretty concise, and I kind of like that stream of consciousness, especially when you're dealing with a serial killer in training. He's trying to figure it all out. I just thought that was a pretty powerful.
And I thought it was very
technique.
much, I think it was Drew that first compared it. I don't know whether it's Drew or Chris compared it to Psycho, but it very much is like Psycho. And the whole thing, it's like when he's failing at these attempts, you kind of feel bad for him. It's like, oh my God. It's sort of like, it is just like the scene in Psycho where the car is sinking into the mud and then it stops.
Right.
That's
And
the
then
one.
you're like, oh no, he's going to get caught.
Right.
I mean, you want him to get caught, but it's
But-
sort
No,
of
you
like,
don't. That's the
But
whole
at that
point. You
moment-
don't.
Yeah.
5 minutes before, you were really upset that he murdered the main character of the movie, and then minutes after that, you're like, "Oh shit!" And then it goes down. And you go like him. You go, "Oh, what a relief!" Like that's crazy storytelling. That's amazing.
But I also think most of us, if we were Rex, most of us, not obsessive Rex, when that serial killer comes to our door and he pushes him down on the ground and starts beating him up, right away, I'm calling the cops. I'm holding him down and I'm saying, because he's admitted to killing her. He showed her the keys.
Yeah, but
Showed
what
him
did he
the car
say?
keys.
He
I
said
have no
there's
proof.
nothing to tie me to this.
I understand, but he knew.
So,
he knew.
That
Rex
wouldn't have
knew.
mattered.
tie me to this.
Well, they would have gone and dug up
I think
his yard.
you really don't know what you would do until you were in that situation, and that's
I tell you
why
what,
the movie
I
is so
invited him to
powerful
drink
because
his
you
coffee.
believe him, you believe his decision that he makes. By the time you get to that,
Oh, I
point in the
believe he
movie.
made that decision.
You know,
I believe he did.
it's-
No question.
It's crazy.
Debbie, have
I
you ever
would.
seen Ryan Reynolds.
I'd
What?
do that. You
Drink the
know,
coffee?
Do what?
I would, if someone said I would, if I was in that situation, I'd drink the drink to find out what happened.
No, you don't. You go on with your life.
There you go.
No,
Right, Debbie's
I
right.
think I'd get another girl.
you don't.
That's not your point. It's
Wait
not
for
a
me
point.
up
I
in
don't
heaven,
think.
Sean. I'm going straight to heaven. You don't need to.
There you
You don't need to do all that. I'm dead.
Debbie, have you seen?
Okay, she gave me permission not to be obsessive.
He doesn't
Okay.
have to go on. He doesn't have to kill himself after I die.
because she's happy. She's going to be happy.
I want to
Be
give you,
happy.
yeah, but speaking also about this, I want to
Just so you
say
know.
about two things. One of the big appeals, talking about death, of embalming, which they never say, is the good thing about a bombing is if you're like in a state of where you're not really breathing but still alive, the embalming kills you.
Okay.
That was amongst people because in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, being buried alive was a very real feel.
Yeah, fear.
Fear. People had all these
because
things.
you weren't quite dead. Because you weren't quite
But you
dead.
weren't
No,
quite
you're
dead.
really
You were mostly dead.
Yeah.
Yes,
Bring out
mostly-
your dead. I'm
yeah,
not
you
dead.
didn't have.
Is she
You
really?
didn't have
You
the.
are now.
You didn't have
Wizard
the
of
machine
Oz.
that goes.
Yeah.
Is she really,
That's right.
really dead?
But
No, she's
embalming,
most clearly dead.
one of the appeals of embalming is, and the embalming process will
Yeah.
kill you.
Okay, that's
That
is
great.
appealing,
Are
yeah.
you endorsing embalming? I don't quite
That's
get
appealing.
what you're doing right there.
No, but for people who had this obsessive fear of premature burial, as it was called, embalming was a good thing.
Mm.
You know what
I'll
else
tell
is
one
good
thing,
for that?
Looking at
It's
this
not
cremated.
Cremation, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty
Oh, that's
definitive.
a
That'll
sure
do it.
bet, too.
that's a
That'll put
sure
you out.
bet too. But they didn't cremate people as much.
Debbie, real quick, have you seen the movie Ryan Reynolds film called Buried?
Oh yeah,
That's a great film.
What is it?
Shockingly good.
Buried.
Buried?
It's exactly
Yeah.
what it
It's an
sounds
hour
like.
and a half of him in a coffin, buried underground, alive.
No, I don't want to watch
It's
that.
great.
There was
Yeah, it's
another
great.
film.
No,
It's a
thank
good
you.
film.
Another great
Everyone
ending.
watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I bought this lighter, because I never want to get caught underground in a bunker. So if I ever get underground, this is it. I fire this thing up, takes all my oxygen, I'm gone.
I
in
was
2
going to say
minutes.
it sucked
Or-
up the oxygen in 5 seconds, but
Or
hey,
you could
Barbecue.
cremate yourself.
Right.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
cremate myself.
I tell you what, I also thought it was the lighter thing was brilliant. Like how the flame, you could tell the oxygen was going
right.
by the way the color of the flame.
Now,
I
It was
really-
also
listen, let's
it was a
rate the
golden.
film.
It
Let's-
is
It
really
was a
let's rate-
golden
great
egg.
movie. It's good. It's a great piece of filmmaking. It's more,
Yes.
people know about the ending if they've heard about it, but the film, it's like Psycho is more than the shower scene.
Yeah, and it's just
Right.
amazing that the same director did the one in '93. That blows
sucks
my
so
mind.
bad.
It's crazy.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. This movie reminded me of another movie from the 90s that I really, really liked and haven't seen since then. It's another sort of descendant of Hitchcock, that sort of thing. I'm almost afraid to go and watch it in case it's not as good. But do you guys remember Breakdown, the Kurt
Yes.
Russell
Oh
movie?
yeah, Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
With his wife gets
Great
kidnapped,
film.
but
Great
the
film.
eerie part is that his wife disappears and then
Yeah.
he goes back to where they were and they're like, you were here alone. What are you
Never
talking
seen
about?
her.
And like you reel at it. It's amazing. I want to
That's a
watch
good
that
one.
again. I think.
That's a good one.
I
Happy
remember
ending,
really
though.
liking that film too.
Yeah.
Very
That's
happy.
great.
It has a
Yeah,
hat, not
happy
very
ending.
happy, but happy. Yeah.
And
Well,
Kurt
that's the whole
Russell's always
thing.
awesome.
Americans
is.
can't handle a bad. Whatever. They're not wrong.
Yeah, Americans
'cause-
can't handle a bad ending.
Because when I was watching the first one, I was expecting Rex to take him out, and he didn't, and that's what made it so great. All right, let's rate it real quick, John.
Well, always before we jump into that,
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, go
talking
ahead.
about happy endings, it always reminds me of that great line in Altman's The Player, where she says, "What do you do?" He's like, "I make movies," and she's like, "Mostly," he's just like, "What makes a good movie?" And he's like, "A happy ending." Basically, he's like, "We manufacture happy endings. That's mostly what we do." When he's like, "So how did you change his screenplay?" He's like, "I had it end up." Even though he's totally making it up just to get.
And you
with her.
remember how that movie ended? They were filming, right?
Yeah, and what's great about that ending
It's
is
so
that
silly.
he wins.
Right.
That's the thing, and he gets that pitch. It's just anyway. That's another gem.
How do you know it's a good script? Do you die in the script? No, then it's a good script.
All right, let's rate this film, though.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll go first. Filmmaking wise, I'll give it a Yippee-Ki-Yay. For me, Yippee-Ki-Nay. And if you're depressed, do not watch this film.
Oh my God, you can't. It's just Christ.
Yeah, that's my review, Ralph. It's mine. It's my
Sean
opinion.
and Debbie.
Yippee-Ki-Yay, if I never see it again, it's fine. But It's a great film, and
For film's sake.
if you like
Right. For
films of
film's
this
sake.
sort, you'll like this film.
Yeah.
Thank
Debbie, I
God
know
there's not a lot
yours.
of this sort.
Chris.
I'm going to go Yippee-Ki-Yay, but I have to admit the rewatch factor on this film is like pretty low.
Once you know the ending, right?
You know, like once you know the ending, and
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like I said, I enjoyed rewatching it for other reasons, but it was like, you know, kind of you said when you know the ending, it kind of
Anticlimactic.
it's
Well,
just
no,
kind of,
it's a. I will say, seeing
I don't
it
agree with
second time,
anticlimactic.
a sense of dread.
Yeah, it's
that I
a
didn't
journey.
have.
It's a journey you don't want to go on.
That's
No,
true.
it's you're right, Sean. It's
Yeah,
dread
it's-
from the word go.
full
When
of
you know
dread,
what's
yeah.
going to happen. It's dread
That
from
is
the
true.
word
You're
go.
just waiting for it, and it's very
Yeah, and
depressing.
that's powerful. I kind of like that feeling.
Yeah.
In a film. I don't like it in my real life.
Mhm.
Drew?
I mean, I would say similarly. I mean, Yippee-Ki-Yay, it's a great
Yeah.
film. It's great filmmaking. I don't own it. I don't need to watch it again. I've now watched it twice in, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and that's fine. I do kind of want to watch Martyrs again, though.
Oh,
So it's possible that this movie will creep back. But I think it's an excellent film, and it's one of those movies that has a real reputation, and it deserves it.
Yeah. Again, Martyrs had a shitty American remake.
Oh, don't watch
Ralph,
that.
I have a
Yes.
question for you.
Yes.
Do you have it on Laserdisc?
Of course. I do. But I didn't know, Criterion's streaming it, which is great.
Yeah.
And they got the,
Laser-
Gonna
did you
watch
watch
it
the
again?
Did you watch the director interview?
I did.
Yeah, it was good. He's
I
good.
did. And there's some real good comparisons of on YouTube between the two films, just to show you how crappy the second one is.
Ugh, I bet.
And yeah, and I think the director even talks about that in a couple places. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's
He's
crazy
like,
it's the same
you have
movie.
to understand how much money they offered me.
I gotta believe that. But again, even some of these comparisons show even the shooting didn't look as good. Like the art was not as.
No,
as
it was.
good as
It
the
just
first
didn't
one.
look as.
Yeah.
as
So
as
obviously
classy.
I'm Yippee-Ki-Yay, but
it's a paycheck
and again,
job.
it's not one I don't watch
Yep.
this once a year or anything, but I do.
And they ran out of money on this shoot too. He had to go to some gangsters to get some money.
And the original one.
It's a tough
Yeah, the
business.
original.
It's a tough
Nice. Yeah.
business.
Mhm.
All right, so now we'll spin for the next.
Before we do that, Ralph, can I just say, make a request to our fans out there who watch our show and love our show?
Yeah.
Subscribe. We hope you've earned that subscription. Give us a like. And hey, while you're at it, why not share us with some of your friends? They might like it too.
I
Not
did
this
notice we got a
particular movie,
comment
but-
on the Born Yesterday for
Yes, and I
another William
responded to
Holden
it.
film
Yeah.
that I guess got
Which
some
one they
Supreme
recommend?
Court. What's it called, John?
I
Blue
don't know.
Moon or Blue something like that. Blue.
It was something that got censored.
Yeah, because of
in a big
seduction.
way.
The
And
word
William Holden
seduction
had a
was
big
in
The
it.
piece
moon
of
is
it.
blue.
That's
Yes. He had a big percentage of the movie too, William Holden.
So that was a nice comment we got. So that's good.
Yeah.
People are watching, which is amazing.
That's right.
So that's always
Now
good.
that they know it's not the movie and a review show about the movies,
right.
they've been much nicer.
I don't understand. But anyway, let's spin for the next run here. And here we go. Oh shit.
Yes.
I know what's coming, I think. I know what's coming. Oh my god.
The American version of The Vanishing.
That's what I was just thinking. Yeah.
No, I think
Perfect.
I think it's going to be Citizen Kane, but he's been threatening that forever.
It's either going to be Citizen Kane or the producers.
Oh god. Okay.
I haven't
Great.
decided which.
So both good choices. As long as it's not Young Frankenstein, I trust you.
It's going to be something definitely lighter. I can tell you that.
That guy got buried alive in
Rosebud.
Young Frankenstein. Practically.
Rosebud.
No, he was dead.
Rosebud.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys and ladies. Debbie, I'm sorry it was
Yes.
so upsetting. Brought
Oh,
up
I
some.
didn't watch it again.
Okay.
Good. Yeah, I don't.
Not
blame
only
you,
did
Deb.
she
I would never
not
watch
watch
this movie
it,
again.
She was not even in the house. She's like, "Are you watching it now? I'm going to go out and lift." And then she's coming home and she goes, "How much of the movie's left?"
What are you
I go,
benching?
30 minutes.
Deb, what are you benching?
Like I'm still staying out.
Oh, I
250,
mentioned
300?
$1,500 last week.
Whoa.
Oof.
Nice. Well done.
All right. Good job.
I want you to do taxi cab confessions. That's what I want you to do.
Oh my
Lyft
gosh.
confessions.
Yeah, we talked
I
about
would-
that.
I would love to be a fly in that car with you. In the
Oh
car
my
talking
gosh.
to these
You wouldn't
people.
believe the conversations I've had in that car.
Don't want to know.
It's unbelievable.
All right, everyone. Have a good week.
Ralph,
And,
thank you. I'm
Yeah,
so
thank you,
uplifted
Ralph.
right now.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been so
I'm glad I
upbeat.
could bring
I'm
joy
gonna
into your
embrace
life.
life. I'm going to
during
go
this
out there
very
and embrace
calm
life
time.
after this podcast.
The country is going through it's just
I've got
everything.
life,
The world is
brother.
bright and
Listen,
light.
if you
I've got
want
$1 million smiles,
if you want to feel
sister.
better, if you want to feel better, a movie just came on Paramount Plus. It's clearly going to be an Oscar contender next year. It's called Jackass Forever,
Oh,
and
God.
it is remarkable. And
I tell you,
think
the one
that
that's
it's
coming
worth
out
your
in
time.
April it's the Nicolas Cage film.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Where
the
he plays himself.
incredible burden of
He's
immense
also playing
talent or whatever it
Dracula.
is.
You know,
Extreme
he's playing
talent or
Dracula in
something.
the Renfield
Wait.
movie.
Right. That I think the Nicolas
looks fun.
Cage playing Nicolas Cage is going to be amazing.
Drew,
So-
have you seen the Rise Darby's our flag is death or something?
No, I haven't. The new Taika pirate show. I
Oh,
have not
God.
watched that yet.
I only watched the pilot, and it was awful.
Oh,
I
really?
guess Sean's done, huh? Debbie?
Oh, wow.
I want to say what you
No,
say,
no,
Drew.
he's
I
doing
watched, so
something.
you don't have to. It just wasn't funny, and I
Wow.
love him. Like
Okay.
on Flight of the Conchords, I friggin'
Oh,
loved
he's
him,
great.
Murray. But this was just maybe it's only the first episode, but it was not funny.
All right.
It was
Now
weird.
that's been on my list, and
Yeah.
you both make me want to avoid it, and also really want to see how bad
Yeah.
it is. So
Yeah. So anyway,
I did just watch Jojo Rabbit by a lot of the
I
same
haven't
people.
seen that. Is that good?
It was okay. It was
Yeah.
okay.
I started
the last half
watching it,
hour
but the
was
grandkids were here,
amazing.
so.
Oh,
All
It's
right,
a fun
well,
movie.
let's end this show tonight. This week.
let's end
And-
it, Ralph, on a
Hey,
high
I
note.
just want to tell the audience what I did. You know, it was the camera was focusing the exposure for the light I had on in the back of the room, which is
Okay.
why
Oh,
it was dark.
So you want to do it again?
Yeah, let's do the show again.
And it was like you were
Could you
buried.
maybe-
It was like you were buried alive in that shot.
Could
So
you
it's
maybe
good.
do it
fit
in
the
a
theme.
Sean? Could you maybe do it in a blue shirt? I think that would look
Yeah.
better.
No, I like the shirtless better.
Blue would have set it off. He
Like
just,
Chippy
I
Dale.
also want to tell the audience I was doing a Timothy Chalamet.
yeah, you
where
just
I
did
had
that
the jacket
to move
and
your.
no shirt.
No, you were doing a Chippendales, Mike there.
You
I
just
thought that
wanted
was
us
a
to see
Christian-
your chapel.
I thought that was a
Street
Kristen
It's
Stewart.
bad.
Yeah.
sign. All right, goodbye, everybody.
Ralph, great job producing tonight. Nice job as always.
Okay, go away, please.
Everyone, have a great week.
Bye, guys.
Stay happy. Embrace life.
Don't vanish.